I am Erin Ellis. I have been working for PFCU, Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, for 6.5 years now. And I've been working the whole time as a financial educator. Prior to that, I worked for some local nonprofits as a financial educator. So I have some background in nonprofits in Philadelphia, some social service work, and now I've been working for the credit union for some time. So all of my work is influenced and informed by sort of that social service nonprofit background, which has been really useful. So that is a little about me. Today we are going to be talking about savings and goals. Part of PFCU's mission is to contribute to the community. So we are not a bank. We are owned by our members. And so what does this usually mean? Many of you probably are members of PFCU. And so, you know firsthand that this means that you're not charged all the fees that the banks are charging you, and you do have better rates with credit unions and lower fees. So definitely some good advantages. I'm working with a credit union. Another thing is that PFCU employs me to do exactly this, which is just to educate people in the community, whether it is our members like this, or employers that we work with, or local organizations that we partner with to provide free financial education throughout the community. So a pretty fun, exciting job that I have to be able to do this. So, and it's all because the credit union supports this work and educating our community at large, as well as our members. So quick poll to ask, is this your first time attending one of our webinars? So just super quick, let me know, have you been to one of the webinars that I've done before, or is this the first one that you're attending? Lots of yeses so far. Oh, okay, great. Give it a few more seconds to say, is this your first time at attending one of our webinars? So just a quick yes or no, and I'm gonna give you about 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so lots and lots of new people today, which is excellent. Thank you for coming. Glad to have you, and hopefully you will come back again. I want to mention that this is part 1 of sort of a 3-part series. They all will stand alone, but I would really encourage you, especially if you get something out of today, to continue and come back for the next 2, and I'll give you more information on that. I don't want to delay too much getting into the good stuff. I find that I attend a lot of webinars, and the first 15 or so minutes feels like a real waste of my time. So let's get into the meat of this right away. Okay. All right, so many of the tools that I'm going to share with you are from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's Financial Empowerment Toolkit. So the CFPB is a federal organization that has the goal of educating consumers and protecting us from predatory practices. So they have a really excellent resource bank, lots of good stuff in there. I do see someone has their hand raised. If you can type a question into the question box, then I will be able to help. Okay. Great, so I will be sharing a lot of tools today from the CFPB. All right, next poll. I want to know, do you pay more attention to how your friends save or how they spend their money? So don't even think about it. I want to know the first thing that pops into your head. Do you pay more attention to how they save or how they spend? I find this is a very interesting thing to think about. And I'll share interesting. So I don't know, and we'll give it a few more seconds. So just take a, do you pay more attention to how your friends save or how they spend? Okay, great. So I'll share that with you. It looks like a few more on the spending side, but pretty close. Honestly, I don't really know how my friends save money. I feel like I kind of know who saves, but it still is sort of a mysterious thing in terms of how they do it or what their methods are. So interesting. Okay. And it looks like, more Americans, we're actually, our results are right in line. More Americans pay more attention to how their friends spend their money. 57%, we were at 56. So really interesting mix today of folks that are just like the same, but 60% wonder how friends can afford expensive experiences posted on social media. Interesting. And I feel like these days we're wondering about a lot of things posted on social media, but that will be a conversation for another day. Okay. So today we're going to focus on goals and how they align with our habits and how they align with our values. So we're going to spend some time thinking and talking about our values and to see how they align with these goals that we have. So if we want to prioritize our goals, we must make sure they align with our values. So today we're going to talk about and think about taking an inventory of our values, setting goals that align with them, creating an informed plan, and that will have the result of increasing a commitment to change behaviors. So we're going to make sure that that goal is not just something that sounds great, but something that is truly important to us, because the more important that goal is to us, the easier it's going to be to align our behaviors and our habits to make those changes. When it comes to the choices we make, our financial choices, none of these choices are made in a vacuum, whether it's financial or otherwise. They're always guided by our values and our habits. Our values, culture, and traditions play a part in how we spend our money, how we save our money, and make all of those financial decisions day to day. The attitudes and behavior we have around money are wrapped up in our feelings of security, failure, family, love, and status. Oof, right? So our money behaviors, our money habits, there really is a lot to it that comes from how secure we feel, our experiences with failure, our understanding of family, love, and status. So that's some heavy stuff, some big things that impact our everyday life more than just, I wanted to get McDonald's on the way home from work today. So it's a lot more complicated than that. And as a result of this, despite our best intentions, the choices we make around money are often influenced by our emotions and our past experiences. So we want to use this knowledge to help inform the way we are creating these new habits and the way we're making these choices. So if we want to prioritize our goals, we must make sure that they align with our values. And that's where we're going to focus today, to make sure our values and goals align. These choices that we make are guided by our values. So here's an example of that. If someone chooses to spend their extra income on their extended family, or their family or neighbors, right, rather than saving for an emergency, it doesn't mean that they have bad financial habits, right? I think we all know people who help support others in their family. And they might do that. It might come at the cost of saving for their own emergencies that come up. But that's not bad decision making. Those aren't bad financial habits. Those are habits that align with that individual's values, right? And so we want to make sure that we say, all right, if my values, if family is highly valued, then they are a priority. And how can I fit them into my plan? So why do we set goals? Hopes and dreams are vague, right? And so when we have values, they shape how we prioritize our time, our energy, and even our money. So another way of thinking about that is voting with our actions, right? So if we value something, we're going to spend time on it, we're going to put our energy into it and spend money on it. And so if our goals support our values, then we're more likely to prioritize them. And that gives us a better chance of accomplishing those goals. Okay, great. And if you do have any questions, you can type them right into the question box on the dashboard, and I will be checking those periodically. So we want to set goals because that's why you're here today, right? You're here to work towards making our future better, to prioritize how we spend our money so it goes towards things that really matter. It is a time of year where I know myself, I have spent a lot of money. I try to make sure it's on important stuff and things that actually matter, but the holidays get to be sort of a whirlwind, and sometimes I do end up putting money in less important places, right? So we want to measure and track our progress towards getting the things we want out of life and take pride in bettering our life and the life of our family. Okay, so here's a question about habits. Okay, I want to know which of the following factors has the most negative impact on your money habits? Is it family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, or social media? And remember, which is the most negative impact on your money habits? So take a look at your screen. There should be a poll that popped up, and you can let me know which of the following factors has the most negative impact on your money habits. I feel like this is an interesting one that has, I'm sure, changed quite a bit. Just in the last few months, I know for me it's changed in the last several months. I spend so much more time on social media, on my phone, much less time talking to coworkers, family, friends than I used to. All right, so let's take a look. So here's what you said. It looks like the majority of us said that social media is the most negative impact, and then after that is family. Interesting, right? Interesting, and friends coming down next. I wonder, it's interesting to think how much of this has changed over the last year, or yeah, if it is any different than it was a few months ago. I know, again, it definitely is for me. So, okay, and someone added in a non-poll option. They're their own worst worst influence. Fair enough, fair enough, okay. Very relatable. And we'll talk a little about those habits and how we can make some changes. So thank you for sharing that. All right. Okay, how do we line up? You can see social media. You know, it looks like a lot of people say friends, family has good influence, social media has bad influence. I'm more interested in what you folks said. One more question for you, and then I'll leave you alone for a few minutes. But this sort of relates to exactly what Ms. Charmaine just shared. What do you think is more important for you for achieving what you want in life? Is it goals or is it habits? So is it goals that are more important for achieving what you want, setting those goals, or is it having good habits and maintaining them? A few more seconds. You guys are quick on this one. All right, 1 or 2 more seconds on this. What's more important, goals or habits? Okay, great. So, here's what you said. Interesting, right? And so how do these overlap? And today we're going to talk a lot about how they overlap, those goals and habits, and how we can use one to inform the other. So there's a ton of research, and I have some of it to share with you about habits and their influence. And we're going to sort of see how these intertwine today and see if we can answer some of those questions. All right. Okay, so just a couple other notes about habits. So the cost of having a good habit, it costs you now in the present. However, it's the bad habits that cost us in the future. So 45% of our reported daily activities, and I have the resources for these at the end I will share with you, but 45% of our reported activities in any given day are automatic, are habits. So 45% of all the things we do throughout the day, almost half of what we do is automatic. For example, I am picking at my nail polish right now. Certainly, that was an automatic behavior, and it was triggered by context from my situation. Maybe I'm feeling a little anxious. This whole online setup makes me always a little uncomfortable. And so that is a habit, right? And as it becomes more habitual, it sort of is processed in a different part of our brain, right? And so I'm not really even thinking about it. I'm just doing it, subconsciously or unconsciously. Small habits matter, and every action we take will then matter in that direction. So we're going to look at the process, look at the setting up. We're going to make sure that goal is solid, but we're also going to look at the process for getting there. So we're going to look at both of those parts of the puzzle today. So we're looking at how those daily choices add up, and we get sort of those results at the end. All right, with that in mind, we're going to say, first, decide you want to save, right? I know I want to save. I haven't yet said what for or how much, but the first thing I'm going to do is decide this is important to me. This is something I value. And I'm not saying what you need to save for. You can save for all sorts of things, whether it's unexpected expenses and emergencies. And these are all extremely personal, right? I would say 2020 has taught us that we all should be thinking about unexpected expenses and emergencies. We might be also saving for a bill that is due every few months. My car insurance, I get a very significant discount if I pay it every 6 months. And so that's something that I save for monthly, right? And we'll talk a little more about some of these strategies and things. Saving, it might be for annual expenses. My dog and cat go to the vet every year, and that costs an arm and a leg. And so, a few $100s. So I want to make sure that I have that. That's sort of one of those yearly expenses. Maybe school uniforms are an annual expense, or personal goals. Maybe I want to go on vacation, or I need a new car, or whatever else it might be. Maybe I'm saving for my kids' education, any of that. So saving now also saves money for us in the future. So let's talk about that a little more. If you skip paying other bills to pay for an emergency, there can be negative consequences. For example, you might have to pay late fees. Your services are turned off, which is right now very scary for a lot of people. And when those utilities get shut off, you often have to come up with even more money to turn them back on. So really, you know, and we're going to talk in a minute. I will give you my disclaimer of making sure, you know, we don't always have enough. So certainly there are there's conversation to be had around that too. So a little more about saving and how, you know, it's costly to neglect savings, right? If you borrow money for unexpected expenses, you'll have to pay fees and you'll have to pay interest on what you borrow. On top of that, you'll probably have to use some of your future income to pay back the money you borrowed, right? So again, if you're saving money now, it will save you much more money down the road. Want to mention emergency funds because these are really important. Again, 2020 has taught us. But emergency funds are very difficult, and many of us struggle to reach that rule of thumb. Most of us have heard the rule of thumb where you want to have 3 to 6 months, you know, and they've really bumped it up 6 to 9 months of expenses set aside. That might be nowhere near a realistic goal for you. I'm not sure I will ever achieve that goal because things come up. So if you are struggling with an emergency fund, this is just a little tip. And the tip is start with $500. It's enough to cover a lot of common emergencies, like a new tire for your car. You might need to go visit a relative, a sick family member, or another minor medical cost. Right? So a lot of stuff fits into that $500 category. It can really get you out of a bind. The next step up, once you get to that 500, then reach for that $1,000. And how do we get there is the next conversation, but we're looking at the goal. So that $1,000 might be enough to cover, you know, 1 month's rent or mortgage or part of it. It might be able to help you with an insurance deductible or a major car repair or a household repair. So that $1,000 mark, again, can really cover a lot of situations that might come up. So starting with this kind of an emergency savings fund is a foundation for setting other savings goals. Once you have this set up, it's easier to focus on saving for other things without worrying about how to handle an emergency expense. You also want to make sure that this money is being saved separately, right? I saw it described as self-escrow. So, you know, you have different accounts. I just, you know, sometimes call it buckets. It's very similar to the old envelope method. It's to just sort of separate different things that you're saving for. So I have a different savings share for my emergency, and I have another savings share for, right now it's mostly all in one pot. I'm going to be honest, because I don't have vacations planned. I don't have a lot of other things. It's sort of like make sure that the needs of the family are met. And that is really my priority. And so, you know, it's interesting how some of this shifts depend on what's going on for us. And I think, you know, at this point in the pandemic, we're sort of starting to plan for 2021 and see what this future will look like. Yeah, I think we have a little better idea than we did a few months ago, although we're still fairly clueless, but yeah, a lot of stuff to think about. Okay, so this is my little disclaimer, my little caveat. It's very hard to plan for those big purchases, those life events, when we're struggling just to make ends meet today. Right now, many people laid off, lost jobs, limited income, or having different expenses that came up recently. I know for me, we're paying childcare for my daughter who is in kindergarten, and I did not think that that would happen. Yet here we are. So sometimes we always need to make sure that we can meet our our needs today. And sometimes we just don't have enough at the moment to get to that goal. So what do we do? Well, you keep coming back to these webinars the next 3 weeks. So the next 3 weeks, this is one of 3. And I would say, you know, please don't be discouraged. Don't give up on the goal. We're just going to add in some smaller goals to adjust your income, which means finding ways to increase income and decrease spending and adjusting your cash flow. So we're going to build in additional goals to that plan, right? I might not be able to save for that car at the moment, but what can I do? What are my goals that I can work towards to get closer to that goal? And goals are not something, if anyone gets my reference of, you know, set it and forget it, the electric food dehydrator, if you are around the same age as me, you will know that infomercial. But goals are not something you can set and forget. You need to revise them as your situation changes. And you may find yourself off track, right? And so come back and revisit that goal. And I actually have a worksheet, a tool that will help you if you're in that scenario. So this is my little plug. Come back and attend parts 2 and 3. So the next webinar is next week, same time, different place. You have to register for each one individually. But part 2 is about balancing income and expenses. So we're going to look at streamlining the savings and goals. So building on what we talked about today, focusing on tracking our income and increasing our income, focusing on tracking our spending and decreasing our spending. So that'll be next week. The following week, we're going to be looking at creating a cash flow budget. And this is going to take all of that information we've learned from starting with our goals, tracking our income, cutting back on certain things that we can, and then analyze and sort of make the most efficient way to make our money work for us. And that is just to sort of make sure that we have the money when we need to use it. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for the questions. Even if they're not questions, especially, I do appreciate your feedback. I wish we had a chat option. We do not, but I do appreciate the questions as sort of a little engagement. So great. Okay. So let's keep going. So yeah, come back the next 2 weeks. All right, so when we're talking about goals, we're talking about SMART goals, because, you know, I spoke about combining the two things. We've got the goals are important, the habits are important too, and really we need both of them. We need both of them. So let's talk about creating SMART goals. So SMART goals are specific. So SMART is an acronym, specific. If you have a specific goal, you have a greater chance of meeting that goal. It's much easier to plan a trip to Boston than it is to plan on a trip to the East Coast. Okay. Measurable. How much? $5 a week is measurable. Saying save more money is not measurable. Right? I don't know what is more. Achievable. The goal, it should be a stretch. And I think somebody commented on this too. We want our goal to be achievable, but we can stretch. Stretching is okay, but you don't want to set yourself up for failure, right? Because if you set a goal that is too high, then unfortunately we get really frustrated, and then we're not going to be able to work toward that, right? I have a lot of people I talk to over the years that say, yeah, I'm going to save, oh my gosh, I'm going to save $400 a month. All right, is that achievable? Sure, of course it is, right? That's what we think. But The reality is every month I don't know why I always pull money out of my savings. Well, maybe it's because that goal is not achievable. So we need to really make sure a stretch is okay, but you want to make sure that it is in fact, realistic, right? And so the R in SMART for a SMART goal stands for relevant. And so this is where these values are so important. And relevant, we want to set goals that matter to us and are a priority in our life. Okay, so this is not, some people use realistic, but I want to use relevant for this. Relevant is important. It is the values, right? It makes it more likely that we prioritize the time and effort to achieve these goals. It is relevant to my life. It is important to me. And then time bound, and that's fairly straightforward, right? We want to say a target or deadline. We want to make sure, it helps ensure they're measurable and that steps are taken to reach the goal. Okay. All right, so this is an example of creating a savings target. And this is one of the resources in the handouts, and I see, if you do want anything emailed to you afterwards, I can email a recording, I can email handouts, but you will have to reach out to me to do that. And I will have my email address up at the end, but you can also find it on the website. It's financialeducation@pfcu.com. So if you send me an email and request handouts or a recording, then I'm happy to send it to you. Okay, because this is one of the handouts that I'll be giving you. So it just sort of breaks down, here's what I want. I want $1,000 within 10 months, about 40 weeks. So you take the total amount and then you work backwards. I've got 40 weeks, that's 25 a week. Okay, how are you gonna do it? What are some really basic saving strategies to do it? Well, I can cut back my cable and save $10 a week and cut down on eating out, and there's my 25 bucks, right? Not quite that easy in reality, but it's a great place to start. A great place to start. So let's dig a little deeper into that. So when it comes to savings, people who have successfully saved, people who save successfully, they generally choose automatic systems for savings for goals. So they decide what it is they want to save, where they want to save, and they set up the system. And so in a way, this is creating the habit. I'm creating the habit where I say, I want to save $25 every week. So I'm going to set it up as if it's a bill and automatically save that money into a separate account. Whether it's weekly or every paycheck, setting it up is changing that habit, right? That automatic payment changes the habit. Now, not all of this is going to work for everyone, right? You might right now say like, jeepers, I really need to focus on making sure my bills are paid. My income changes from week to week. So there's so much individuality that comes with this. So you really need to adjust it to make sure it works for you. So if you start with something small, $10 a week, you save $10 every week for a year, that's $500, right? So you might not have even missed that $10 a week, but now you have that start for that emergency fund that you didn't have previously. Okay, so a question specifically about saving. PFCU have different way to save for different goals and different accounts? Absolutely. PFCU has different shares, so you can have many savings shares and you can rename them. So you can open additional savings shares online, you can do it over the phone, or you can call. Obviously, you all know how to use a computer because you're here today, or a phone, a smartphone. So I would recommend, adding a share to your account online through Tellernet. It's really easy to do. I've got several myself, and in Tellernet, you can actually rename those accounts so that you can have each goal have its own name. So it can really help with, I have one, for example, I mentioned my car insurance. I have one that is called car insurance, and it says how much I need to transfer every month to reach that 6-month mark that I need to pay that. So absolutely, and great question. So you can definitely open up different shares to save for different things. And yeah, and you can automatically transfer into all of those. I'm looking at this, and right on this slide here. You can also hide your account through TellerNet. So if you know, assuming most of you are members of PFCU, you can actually go into the settings, you can rename or hide an account. If you hide an account, it doesn't go anywhere. It's just not visible to you, which means that if you log on to TellerNet, it's not showing up in your available balance. It's not in front of your face. If you log on to the app, you're not seeing it. And so it can sort of take that away. We want to decrease these barriers. And when it comes to habits, the advice, and we're going to get into this in just a minute, but the advice is, you know, to decrease those barriers to changing that behavior. So maybe one of the ways to do that is to, have a different account, is to hide that account from yourself, right? Just creating a little bit of friction so it's not quite so easy to make those choices. Okay, so another one of the tools that I have on the handout, and I will show you guys the handout at the end too, but another one of the tools is this SMART goals worksheet. And it really will take you through step by step through each acronym letter here, through each characteristic, and you can answer some of these questions for yourself to make sure you have a SMART goal. So you want to go through and make sure that goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And they give you these questions that act as really useful prompts. I'm not going to go through too much, but to say that, let's see. We'll go through these quickly. So we want to say that goal is specific. So I have an example here, and this is a personal goal, is to spend $300 less than my income every month. So, you know, I didn't even say in this goal what I'm going to do with it, but this is the habit I want to change and create. So I'm going to spend $300 less than my income. Why do I want to do this? Because 2020 taught me that other things come up, that eventually I might have more expenses than I think or anticipate I will. I already mentioned my kids' childcare costs. I know one day I'm going to need a car payment and I don't have one right now. So just sort of saying, all right, make sure that I'm not living up to my means. So that is something that's important to me. What will I achieve? Well, I'm going to transfer $300 every month. So who's going to benefit from this goal? I'm going through and answering these questions. My whole family will benefit, will be better prepared in general when the next expense comes up, because I know it's going to, I just don't know what it is at the moment. And then what's the specific thing I'm going to accomplish? And in this case, it's living below my means. So you can see, you know, this financial goal is not like I want to have this much money by this date, although I can build in that to this goal, right? Because this will be money that I have to tell it what to do. Otherwise I'm spending it, right? And that's the opposite. And I just adjusted this goal actually this morning, because the goal I had that I created in October, just, oh jeepers, 3 months ago, is completely unrealistic at this point, completely unrealistic. So just in the last few months, I've really made a lot of adjustments and changes, and it doesn't seem relevant right now. Just doesn't seem relevant. So I've adjusted, and here's my new goal. And I have a resource too to look at revisiting goals and making sure that they are aligning with our values. So how much am I saving? How do I know when it's done? Well, every month I can sort of put a check mark. I have a calendar. I'm going to put a check mark when my transfer is made. I like to look at it and watch it grow. Is it achievable? Yes, according to my monthly plan, but at the moment it will work. However, I do still need some tools and support. I need to make some changes with my habits. So that's going to be, and you can see these steps down here that I have: automatic transfer, inventory income, inventory expenses. Those are coming up in my next 2 webinars. And this isn't just a plug, although it is that too, but to say, you know, there's more to it. I can't just say, yep, I can do it, right? Because if I don't have that cash flow at the right time, I'm not going to be able to do that. So I absolutely need some tools and support in order to get there, and I have to explore what those are more. Already mentioned that it's relevant, so I won't talk too much more about that. Is it time bound? Right now, absolutely, it's monthly. That's my time. So every month I have the same goal, and it's $300. All right. Now we're going to talk about an action plan. And so I am going to show you a video. Let's talk through this slide and then I'm going to show you a video. So many goals require external resources. It might be information, tools, transportation, a professional financial coach or counselor. And these resources, we're going to add these into our action plan. We're going to work on setting deadlines for each step's completion, and not only those deadlines, but work on those action steps within those steps. And those are the habits. Just want to note too, deadlines are not always dates. Sometimes we have to wait for a response or a follow-up, right? I have another outdated example, but my example is I will complete an absentee ballot, but I didn't have it at the time that I wrote this. So I can't say the date, but what I can say is I will get it within 2 days of its arrival. I will complete it, right? So that deadline is not precisely a date, but it is still specific enough to follow through. It's really important research around writing down goals and writing down intentions and new habits. People who write down specific goals and intentions and plan their habits are much more likely to reach their goals than if they don't write them down. Additionally, sharing those goals with a friend and checking in regularly about your progress also increases the chances that you'll reach that goal. It's that accountability, and it does have a real impact. And so we're building into our plan accountability, and we're building in writing down by hand, right? So think about adding a friend or family member, and we're going to actually include that person, and they're going to be a part of your plan. Now, they are not there to babysit you or to monitor you, but just as a check-in person to say, this is what I'm doing, right? And you decide how much information you want to share, that's okay. It's just about sort of checking in and accountability. All right, I am going to show a video. Just give me 1 second to get this working. Okay, so it should work, and you should, as soon as I hit play, be able to hear it too. So if someone can type in the question if you cannot hear, but here we go. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that video. I really like the idea of a piece of chocolate after a workout. I'm currently working on incorporating yoga into my everyday life. Not doing a great job of it, but wondering if that little technique will make a difference for me. So we're looking at, and this is Charles Duhigg, this is his research, and information. Again, the resource is on the slides, on the handouts. It's going to be both linked through the slides and through the handouts, but how to change a habit. So the idea is, what do you want to change? And hang on one second, I'm going to see if I can work this out. Okay. I think I can. Great. All right. So according to Charles Duhigg and to this video, we want to think about how do we change a habit and what do you want to change? So then, you know, choosing this habit, and this is going to be something we identify in our action plan. And so we're going to think about diagnosing the 3 parts of that habit. So what is the habit you want to change? And you know what, I'll use for the sake of this, shopping at Target less. That's the habit I want to change. Looking at my phone and opening the Target app for no reason at all. And then of course, wanting to buy more stuff. So want to take the time and ask ourselves, what is the cue? What is our brain getting triggered by that is making us sort of look for this reward? So, you know, is it a certain time? Where am I? Who else is around? What did you just do? What emotion are you feeling? And one of those 5 things is the clue. So we're going to look for the one that stays the same every time you feel the urge. So in my case, the Target one probably has to do with emotion and what I'm doing, which is probably feeling a bit bored and sort of frustrated by the routine, right? So that's going to be the cue. So then we're looking at step 2 next, and we're going to say, what is the reward of doing that, right? What craving do I think that this habit is satisfying? So I might be able to then, you know, I'm going to test it. So I can substitute another reward. If I don't look at Target on my phone, but rather I don't know, I haven't worked this out yet, but have a cup of coffee, for example. Is the craving gone? If yes, that's it. I solved I diagnosed it, right? And if not, I'm going to substitute a different reward, an opposite reward. So what's the opposite of looking at Target and seeing what's on sale? Probably maybe checking my bank account. I don't know. Maybe just looking in my closet and seeing how much I already have. That would be a good one. Or getting rid of things. There's another good one. So, and I keep experimenting until I find something new that satisfies the urge. And actually, I think I'm going to think about that, sort something, get rid of something if I feel the need or urge to look at Target. And the routine. So now I identified the cue, I identified a reward, and I'm going to insert a new routine. So the new routine in this case is going to be, every time I do that, and I already have this list in existence, I'm going to pick a spot in my room, just clean it out. I have a list. I want to get rid of the stuff on my desk. I want to get rid of some stuff on my dresser. So there we go, right? I have my new routine, and I'm going to look at creating that as a new habit using that new routine. Let me get my window back up for you. And so again, Charles Duhigg is reminding us that studies show that the easiest way to implement a new habit is to write a plan And that's what this whole conversation is about today, is to write a plan. So you can write your own plan. And I would really encourage you. I know I set this up for an hour and a half, and part of the reason I did that is so we could do something like this. But I want you to take a look and think about, when I blank, we're creating a new habit, right? A new plan. When I blank, I will, because it provides me with blank, and that's the reward. So take a second, if you can grab a pencil or a paper and just fill it in for yourself. When I blank, right? Whatever the cue is, or whatever thing is triggering you to do that habit that you want to change, you know, probably surrounding spending money if you're here. I will, what? What are you going to do differently? Because it provides you with the reward. And what is that reward? Really identify it for yourself. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to do this. And if you want to type your answer into the question box, that would be awesome. I can share them if you want, or I can keep them private if you don't. But very interested in hearing some of this from the group here. And you know what? I think we will revisit this later on, because be a great way. We could even open up if folks are willing to share at the end, and have people unmute and sort of share with the group if you're willing to. All right, so just as a reminder, you know, at the moment you might not have the money to save, right, for what you are trying to save for those goals. So one of your major steps in your action plan is going to be that you need to increase your income, or you need to decrease your spending, which is way more complicated than just saying those words. But if either increasing your income or decreasing your spending is part of that, come back next week, not October 20th, but come back next week at noon, sign up, and we will get into more of those steps. All right. I am going to launch one last poll, and it's just a quick one. But I want to know, would you rather save $5 a day, $35 a week, or $150 a month? So take a second to answer this poll. Tell me how you want to save. All right, so you should have a poll that popped up. So take a look at your screen and let me know, how do you want to save? All right, a couple more seconds to answer it. 5, 4, 3. All right. Okay, so this is us. This is our group here. This is what folks said they would rather save. The majority of us said $150 a month. I think many of you will have probably figured out the fact that this is the same. It's the same amount of money, right? And how you choose to save is up to you. So whatever makes the most sense for you is what is going to be the best bet. And whichever instinctually you thought, oh, that makes sense to me, that probably is your best bet, right? I am not a psychologist, but that just makes sense. So interesting the way our brains work and how we decide what is a good fit for us and what's not. So and interesting too, when it comes to cash flow, this is a really relevant question. One of these might be more realistic than another for you based on your income and your expenses, your cash flow. So it will be, and answer 2 will become more clear once you have that cash flow budget on what you will be most successful with. All right, so we want to make that savings automatic. This is a repeat, I think. We're going to keep moving forward. So I also shared this with you in the handout. And this is a plan for your goals to put them in action. And it has the first step and it breaks it down. And then you have your resources. This is a really important box, that resource box. That box might be where you're adding in the tools that you need. You're also maybe adding in one of those habit loops, and we'll revisit that. Your date, your accountability date, right? Your deadline for yourself, and then your accountability budget. Who are you going to check in with and how often? And again, that person is not a babysitter. You're responsible for your own, but it's really good, can be a really good resource to be able to check in with someone else. Just having that conversation can make a big difference. So this might look the same, but it is different. So this is then a continuation of the same document. And this one is to say, I'm going to take each of those big steps and break them into smaller steps. And one of the articles I'm sharing with you about habits talks about changing habits on a micro level. So really doing things, small bites, small steps. That is the best way to get closer to your goal. So this will say, say I have a big goal that I want to save that $300 a month that I mentioned before. And so within that, I have smaller goals. One of my smaller goals is to inventory my expenses. And so that's going to have its own worksheet and its own steps. And I'm going to set those out so that I can do each one. Now, once I achieve that goal, I inventory my income. Maybe I do it with a spreadsheet and I export all my expenses because I use my debit card for everything, and then I sort of categorize them, and that's my method, and I list out all those steps. Now, once I've done that, I go back to the big goal. All right, so that step is completed, but that step had its own steps. I hope I didn't lose anyone on that. All right, so what we're doing here is we want to make sure our goals are prioritized. So we really want to make sure that they align with our values. We want to take an inventory of our values. What's important? Is it friends, family? Is it learning? And you can find some lists of common values and see sort of what makes the most sense for you. Or just sort of think off the top of your head. Make sure that your goals align with those values. Create an informed plan. This is where we're going to look at those SMART goals, and we're going to start working on a plan, including those habits. We're going to increase our commitment because we did that, because our plan is influenced by our values. We're going to then, as a result, have an increased commitment to those changed behaviors, which is going to increase the likelihood of achieving those goals. So we're going to step one. This is sort of the whole next 3 weeks. Decide why to save, determine where and how much you save, and then we'll look at the next few steps in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to do a couple of things because we have pretty much covered the content. The plan, though, for the next little bit is if you have to go, I get it. We probably could have squeezed this into an hour. I find that all of my webinars are we don't have enough time. So I cut down the content, but as a result, now we don't need all of the time. So if you need to go, absolutely, please grab the handouts if you can. They are on that control panel. If you cannot grab the handouts, then absolutely email me, financial education. I think I can put that in the chat and you should all be able to see it. If you are able to stick around, we have some good stuff ahead, so please do. Okay, but if you need anything, that's how you can reach me. My email is in the chat. Okay. And if you have questions too, please feel free to drop them in the question because we will be getting to that. But my plan right now is to take you through the next action steps and look at them with you. I want to share some of the resources. Actually, that's what we're going to do first. I'm going to show you the handouts and show you what some of these resources and tools look like. So that's the next thing we're going to do, because there's so much to cover and so much to talk about, and doing the work is actually the hardest part, not showing up to this, although that's not easy either. But the next steps where you're on your own and you're really plowing through this stuff, that's the difficult part. So let me show you some of these resources and tools, and we can talk about them. Also, if anyone is not able to stay, is hopping out, then please fill out the survey that will pop up at the end. It's a quick few questions just to say that that would really help us in planning future events. Okay. All right. I'm trying to share my email. Okay, this is also my email address, so I'll put that right on the screen. It's the same. They're all the same emails, though, if you have the other one. All right, so I'm going to show you the Savings for Goals resource now. And what you will be getting with this resource. So you can see, thank you for attending. You can find the tools and links from today's webinar below. The two upcoming webinars, the next 2 weeks, same time. You do have to register for these if you want to attend because it will be a new link. So please register for these. You can check out any future webinars that we're planning. We're doing something really exciting in February. We're planning one with the Department of Treasury and Fund My Future about saving for your kids' education, college or otherwise. So that's really exciting. So look out for that in February. And I also will be doing webinars on credit in February. So take a look at those and please register. Email address is there as well. And then here are some of these useful tools. So if you are struggling daily to make those ends meet, which, you know, right now a lot of people are, this is a great tool to help you prioritize bills. And it really goes through, sorry to be moving so quickly, but it will take you through some of the things to consider when you're making these really hard choices. For example, if I miss a car payment, you may pay a late fee, you might risk repossession, might hurt your credit. You also might not be able to get to work, right? You might lose your job. So this will take you through, not to say this is why you should worry about it, but this will help you prioritize which of these bills need to come first. And these are all fillable PDFs. So you will be able to fill out your own, or you can print them and do them by hand. If printing is something that exists for you, you can also write them down in a notebook. Use this as a guide, but do it by hand in a notebook because that can be a really powerful tool to actually do it by hand. All right, so that is one that will help you navigate. I cannot pay all of my bills right now. This is not where I want to be long-term, but at the moment, I need to really prioritize what's going to keep me, you know, in my home or keep my children fed and those sorts of things. So this will help navigate some of those really tough choices that you're making. The SMART Goals tool is here. I mentioned that. And this is, oh, this is not the one. Sorry, I hope I'm not driving you nuts flipping around. But this is great start for creating that action plan. So the first thing is making sure that this is a SMART goal. So what are you gonna, how are you gonna start, and what are you gonna do with that goal? This is that action plan. And so this is the last one I just showed you, to start with that SMART goal up here. And then I can list my steps and the date and who am I going to check in with? What are the resources I need? And so this is the big steps here. And then each of those big steps you can break into small steps with additional, same sheet, just additional. This revisiting tools goals tool is also really useful. I really like this one because, especially right now with things changing all the time, we might get more stimulus money. We might have, we need to reevaluate all the time, right? We need to figure out what's going on and reevaluate and make sure our goals are where we want them to be. So that you can find here too. And then resources about habits. A great article about achieving big goals and starting with small habits, those micro habits I mentioned. Resources about habits, including that video that I shared with you. I also want to mention Clarify is always available. They are a local nonprofit financial counseling service that is a partner of PFCU, and you do not have to be a PFCU member, but if you are, they will have a sort of priority treatment for you, which just means they have a dedicated line to answer those calls. And so Clarify is awesome because they can help you create your budget. They can help you create a spending plan that works one-on-one with your personal information and help you sort of set and work towards those goals. I want to just quickly show you this last infographic, and I had some of it shared. Well, that's not it. All right, apparently I need to check that link, but you will see basically that's what I had in my slides. Let's see if I can go back. What I want to do now is, for those of you still with us, and there's still many of you, I want to revisit this, and I want you to think about a habit that you want to change. So I want you to think about what that habit is, and I want you to grab a pen or pencil. We still have time. You've blocked off on your calendar until 1:30. Grab a pen or pencil, grab a piece of paper, and writing a plan, writing it with your hand is important. And so I want to know, I want you to write down when blank. So what is that trigger for that habit that you want to change? Or maybe you want to develop a new habit, right? So either developing a new habit or changing one that you have. You might want to develop that yoga habit. When 4 o'clock hits, I will do yoga because it makes me feel physically better, right? Or maybe it's something you want to change. When I'm feeling bored and want to look at my phone and see what Target has on sale, I will clean out a drawer, a tiny spot, doesn't have to be a drawer, because it provides me with lots of satisfaction. I love throwing stuff out and getting rid of stuff. All right, so take some time, and what we'll do now then, it's 1:14. Take a minute or so to do that. And then if anyone wants to unmute, I have to unmute you first. And let me know if you want to share with the group. And remember, accountability is important. So yeah, so use this as your platform. Make yourself accountable. And if anyone wants to share, just raise your hand and I will unmute you. Okay, I see Ryan Saunders has their hand up, so I am going to unmute you, Ryan. Thank you very much for being the first volunteer. Hooray! Okay, Ryan, you are unmuted on my end.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay. Great, great presentation, I have to say. Very impressed with the information.
Thank
So
you.
the habit I am trying to break, when it's 5 o'clock, I will walk. I'm just abbreviating. I will get on the treadmill, get on my treadmill and walk for 40 minutes. Because it will help to improve my sugar level, my diabetes.
Awesome. Ooh, that's exciting.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Ryan, for sharing.
Uh-huh.
Also, now I feel like as the accountability partner for Ryan, we can all sort of cheer him along, which is sort of the idea, right? It's empowering to hear other people share. Thank you. All right, who's the brave soul that's next? You don't really have to be that brave. That was awesome. So just raise your hand in the dashboard. Or if you don't want to speak, but you want to share, you can type it into the question. Oh, I see one in the question and I'm going to share it. And if you want me to tell everyone who you are, I can do that too. This one that was typed into the question says, when I get bored, I will read a book instead of logging into social media because it provides me with satisfaction and accomplishment. Yes. Say it again. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to call out who you are. So if you don't mind, I will totally say your name. Just type it into the chat if that's okay. Oh, it's great. Anybody else want to share either through the question or through raising a hand? I promise you'll get a hit of endorphins if you do. Oh, I really feel like that's true. And so along with this, one of the resources that I shared was that article about changing habits. It's a Harvard Business Review article. And, you know, along with this sort of cue that we have here, it looks at setting up really tiny goals to start to move the needle on those behaviors. So tiny goals as or tiny changes, right? So maybe my yoga is do one pose every day, and that is my micro habit, and that's going to help me get closer and closer. All right, so I have another. At 5 p.m. I will work. Oh wait, let me try again. At 5 p.m. I will walk out of work and go home. My kids mean more than a job that will hire someone new tomorrow. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Okay, we have another one. When I get bored and want to shop, I will work on cleaning a part of my closet because it will provide me with knowing that I already have, yes, what I already have, and save money. Absolutely. You and I are going to, we should be buddies on that. Awesome. Thank you so much to those of you who have shared. We still have a few minutes. If anyone else wants to share, I can unmute you, or you can share right into the question box. I really love that these are very concrete and tangible too. You know, I'm giving myself that cue. So it feels very concrete to me, which I like. All right. If anyone else wants to chat something in, please do in the questions. If you want to raise your hand, I can unmute you. If you want to have a conversation, great. I will be here for the next few minutes. Otherwise, we are done for today. Please sign up for next week. You do have to register. So please do if you're interested, and come back next week. We will talk more about increasing income and decreasing spending, which is kind of fun, to be honest with you. So come back for next week, come back for the week after, and enjoy those resources. Please bring back any questions you have. And that is it for the day. So like I said, I'll stick around, but for the rest of you, when you're done, if you have nothing more to add, then please just complete the survey for me, because it's a huge help in planning future events. It really makes a big difference on what we're doing. All right. Thank you guys so much for attending. Really appreciate it.